Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming down. What a wonderful venue. What a great space this is. And what a great celebration. I mean, music and culture is all about space, isn't it? Nothing will ever happen if you don't have the space to make things happen. And TJM, when I was growing up in Blackpool, the rock and roll epicentre of the world, it seemed like this really exotic space with amazing things are happening all the time. And years later, I found out it's just a pretty tumble-down little warehouse in Manchester. But so many incredible stories, so much incredible music's come out of there. And it's great that Tony decided to write it all down in a book, because I think it's great to have all the stories of all the music scenes and everything that ever happened in the city, and everyone should get credit for what they did. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tony's about to come on stage. A round of applause, please, for Mr. Tony Davidson.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks very much for everybody for turning up. A lot more tickets were sold, but it was over a period when COVID was on, from early May onwards. So people have put the money in, and it's gone to the Lou Macari Foundation and also bought books. So thank you very much for everybody for turning up, and I'd like to make a special thank you to people who've travelled. There's a young lady who's travelled from America, who just arrived. These people come from Herefordshire, far away from Birmingham, and I like to say Staffordshire, and I'd like to say thank you very much for making the effort. Writing the TJM story was really, really good fun, and it started off in a slow thing. My friend Glenn Jones helped me initially, and the whole thing started getting momentum. And in writing the book, a lot of fantastic memories came back. Offshoots, Lou Macari coming down with the 1979 World Cup team, the 79 FA Cup team. It was quite a story, but that will be told later on. We've got some really esteemed guests on the right. We've got John Robb, who was the first guy to interview Kurt Cobain when he came over, and he's gone on to he's a go-see guy to interview people when they come into the Northwest, and he's a great guy to know. Also, we've got Mike Sweeney, who's had the longevity of 40 years as a radio presenter, and before that with the Salford Jets, and a great musician. And of course, we've got Peter Hook, who I've got to give great thanks to Peter Hook, because he's in the course of a massive tour, and he made his time available. I've been chatting with him in the back, and it's great to see him after 40 years. And these guys, all three of them tonight, have come with what we call the common touch, and the great guys to know. So if Peter and Mike could come on stage, we can get the show on the road. When they come out, they're out there. So
get on the fucking stage.
Hello.
So I would like to start actually with you, Tony. Why that warehouse, and why did you set up a rehearsal space?
I managed, going back, my musical heritage is because I was from Northern Soul. It was an underground thing way, way back, 69, when I went to a place called the Twisted Wheel, and I got enthralled with music. It was definitely an underground scene, and it was kind of a danger going there as a young 16-year-old. But I met a lot of friends, and that's where I developed a passion for music. I was initially an anorak at first, soaking everything in. Then, fast forward to 75, 76, I started managing a band called The Drones. Back then, they were a bopper band like the Bay City Rollers, but I wouldn't say I was probably instrumental in changing them. And they came with their own, obviously, talent, became a punk band. What the catalyst was, and I think Peter will concur with me, was when punk music came along, and we went to I was lucky enough to go to the second Sex Pistols gig, and these guys were in front of me, the Drones. I was managing the Drones, and there was something about that event that inspired me. I was going to get married to my first wife, going to buy a house in Winslow. I had the money to put a big deposit down. And it was a eureka moment. I thought, right, no, I want to do something. I took the drones as far as I could, got them to getting a record deal, and we left on very good terms. And then I saw this building. I wanted to, something just twigged with me. I thought rehearsal. I always thought there's a shortage of rehearsal spaces. I was walking around Little Peter Street. Back then, property was very, very in recession. You could buy warehouses for 22, 25,000. Same building today is 2-3 million. But that was the state of the Manchester back then. Saw this building, inquired about it, got anything, and something drew me in. There was some heritage with it. The building went back to 1805, and the guy came up to me. It was like a ghostly figure. I was walking around by myself, and a guy came into the back. There's a massive door about 20 foot high at the back of the building, and he walked. He said, "Do you know this is the hayloft here where the horses were for the Peterloo massacre?" So it had some significance, and the guy just disappeared. So something had about it had an ambience about the building. So there was no video, there was no actual kind of internet back then. You had to put posters up around town, but I knew there was a surge in bands. Bought the building, put posters up around town. The first band was coming was Ed Banger and the Nosebleeds. I don't know if Ed Wiener's here tonight. Then the bands followed, Slaughter and the Dogs, Joy Division. Peter came down with the band Peter, and most of the talk came in, we want a rehearsal studio, it's got to be secure. And I looked at them, I thought, yeah, nice lads, and thinking, yeah, they're just doing it for a bit of fun, you know, with the enthusiasm. Put them in a little room, they didn't have much equipment, but over a period of, I used to pop in to see them regularly because they were very friendly sort of guys, always chatting about this. And you could see the music developing. It was a kind of a weird thing. Bands were kind of hammering 4-chord riffs out.
Yeah. So Peter, I just call him Pete, Hooky. Well,
I was just going to say about that first marriage didn't last long, did it?
Yeah.
Look, we were going to get that house in Winslow. Look what I've bought you. Fucking hell, man.
Look what I'm
Be out of
getting
there.
now.
And
so do you remember the first time you went down there and how you discovered the place?
No, I mean, Tony is absolutely right. It was impossible to get anywhere to practice. Because every time you went in a pub and said you were a group, have you got a room we could have? They'd go, oh, yeah, just play in the corner. It'll be good for the clientele. It'll be, oh, they'll love it. Old Fred will love it. Yeah. And, you know, we're like, but we're a screaming punk band. We can't do that, you know. So we did have nowhere to go. It was a pain in the arse, absolutely. And the only time he ever came in to see Joy Division was to go, have you got my money? Don't fucking kid me. It was £1.50 an hour.
Yeah.
How much do you owe him? Do you still owe him?
Do I still owe him? No, I don't owe him.
I bet you do. Yeah.
But no, I mean, it was, yeah, when we first went, I was telling Mike, in fact, me and Mike have just had the best time back there. I wish you'd all been there. Fucking hell, we're worn out. When we first got there, it was literally the week after you just bought it.
That's right, yeah.
And we practiced in the fucking worst shitholes you have ever seen in your life. I mean, the practice stories were unbelievable. What was that big pub in Charlton? We used to go, God, there was Little Alex and the Big Alex. And we practiced in there one night and there was 10 other bands playing. All playing at the same time. Now, his place was big enough for you to do that, but the Big Alex wasn't. It was horrendous. And then we found out about him. And we went down, and I remember going in the first night, £1.50 for an hour. And we were sat there, and we went, you know what? I think this radiator is on. And everyone went, fuck off. And we all went over, and we were like that, going like it was fucking magic, going, it's fucking on. It's on, the radiator's on. And we're like, wow, fucking hell, so excited. And for 2 weeks, every time we went to practice, because we used to do an hour on Wednesday, because that was all we could afford, £1.50, and we used to do 2 hours on Sunday. which was £3, and we'd all chip it in before the practice. And then we'd either go and have a burger or a Chinese at the buffet afterwards. So it was actually quite nice. But the weird thing, which is by the by, Joy Division used to write a song every practice. So it was great value for money for us. But 2 weeks, the place was warm, and it was absolute heaven. It really was. And then we came back in the next week, Wednesday night, and it was fucking freezing. There was icicles all over, and we were like, fucking hell, what's happened here? So I goes into his office, which was downstairs, and I said, yeah, Tony, he's going, oh, what do you want? Fucking, what do you want? I said...
Did he always talk like that?
Yeah, can't you tell? I said, it's really cold. And he went, yeah, I know, the oil's run out. I'm not getting any more. And from that day on, you'd be fucking freezing, just like all the rest.
Well, that helped your creativity.
Fucking hell, you had to run round to keep warm, that was for sure. But no, I mean, there was a shortage, and it did very, very quickly become a scene for the simple reason that everybody was in it.
Mate.
Who else is in there then when you were in there?
Fucking hell, everyone. It was full of twats.
Not your room, I mean all the other rooms.
I mean, literally, as you see in Tony's book, the list is unbelievable. You know, literally everybody was in there. But they weren't very sociable, right? We were all in our own little world. We were all dreaming of stardom. Everybody was your competition, and you hated them with a fucking vengeance.
Who did you hate the most out of all the bands?
V2 we hated the most.
Yeah.
Now, the weird thing was, sorry, I'll be with you in a minute.
No, you're all right, mate.
He talks enough on the
I love
radio,
this.
doesn't he? You know what I mean? The weird thing was after a while, we'd been watching Tony with his flash cars and his, should we say, sachet, and we thought, you know what? He'd be fucking good as a manager.
Yeah.
No particular management acumen, but we thought he'd be fucking good as a management. Taught the iron leg off a donkey. Was very confident for his age. He was only 3 years older than me, weren't you? Yeah. So we asked him to be our manager. And we all went into the room, said, we've got something to ask you, Tony. And he's like, oh, yeah, what's that then? What's that? By this time, he had the record label. And we said, we'd like you to manage us. No, fuck off.
Great move, that, Tony.
Don't like you. Fucking kicked us out. And then we were really annoyed at V2 because they were on his record. Yeah. So we, as the outsiders, were seething. And I remember I've got a terrible confession. I have got a terrible confession to make. Because you signed the Frantic Elevators, didn't you?
That's right.
You
Listen,
did
when
their
the Frantic
first record.
Elevators.
Mick Hucknall and me and Barney were there one night, and we saw Mick Hucknall come in. And he was going in his office because his record had just been pressed. Right. Frantic Elevators, 12-inch, wasn't it?
Yeah, 7-inch.
7-inch, yeah, whatever. It's not all about the length, is it? So we were there, seething inwardly, watching fucking Mick Hucknall go in, pick his record up. Ah, fucking bastard. Fucking fucker.
Can't believe you didn't smack him one.
He came out.
I would.
He came out, and the toilets were just up one floor from where his office used to be in the middle. So Mick comes out, puts the records down on the floor, leaning against the wall, and goes in for a piss. So I said to Barney, I said, fucking go and get him. He goes, what? I said, fucking go and get him. Go and get him. He goes, I'll fucking get him. So we grabbed him, ran out, threw him in the canal. So if anybody wants to dredge that canal.
Perfectly reasonable.
So, Mike, when was the first time you went down there? Were you one of the original bands in there, or was it slightly later on?
No, we were all, it don't matter now, it mattered then. We were all older. The Suffragettes were, the door that punk opened let people, there's not just me, there's loads of people out there. Stuart Copeland from the Police, Jet Black from the Stranglers. There was loads of us that were around the 30 mark, hadn't quite made it in the 60s, and found that punk opened a door for us. So when we went there, our youngest member, I think Dave was 24, 25, but I was 30, 31, and Rod Gerard, the guitar player, was 33. Obviously, our bio said that we were 22. Of course, you know what I mean? And but my bio, no, it says 41 now. And so, although I didn't realise Hooky was only, right, I only realised Hooky he's only 9 years younger than me. I always thought you were about 15 years younger than me, so there's a bit of lying going on there somewhere along the line. I've got to tell you, and this is a genuine story, it's not with hindsight now. The Salford Jets were a rock and roll band. Everything that I wrote was influenced by the 60s, so we're proper meat and potato pie. I remember asking Tony why he never signed us to Factory. And no, not him, no. I remember asking Tony Wilson, said, why did you never show any interest? And he said, Mike, he said, you were proper ordinary. And we were, he said, I only signed people with issues, you know. With issues and angst and problems. So we were a rock and roll band. And we're all right, and I'm writing songs, but they are based girls' cars fighting in cars, shagging girls in cars, fighting and shagging and cars.
That could be your next album title.
Yeah.
So did you know each other then? Did you pass each other in the corridors?
No, but he'll tell you the story of when he first...
No,
go on, tell him the quick story, go on.
I was in the Willows in 1973. We used to go to the disco there on a Monday night. Tuesday was half price, if anybody's thinking of going. I went on this one Monday night, and the woman said it's sixpence. We're like, fucking sixpence? It's normally fucking
2.5p.
What's going on here? And she said, oh, there's a band on. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, who wants to see a band? I thought, oh, fuck, was that to my mates? Oh, shit, it's going to be shit, you know. So he went and he was shit. No, I'm joking. The band
Ordinary.
was his band. His band was the first band I ever saw when they were
Really?
Smithy.
Yeah.
A glam rock band.
And is that how?
Played at Salford Willows.
And is that what started the dream, the rock and roll dream for you?
No.
No.
Obviously not. I could dine out on it if it
But I
was.
suppose we got to know of each other because they were a Salford band. I mean, my best mate, Dave D, out of Dosby, Dave D, he was my next door neighbour. He was a great mentor for me. Signed him, you see. And his claim to fame was, get this, he signed the Salford Jets, but turned the Sex Pistols down twice. Not just once, he turned them down fucking twice. And I used to say to him when I had a drink, I go, how the fuck did you manage to sign the Salford Jets and turn the Sex Pistols down? And he said to me, do you know why, Peter? He said, because the Sex Pistols were shit.
I'm going to take that as a compliment. We're here in Tony's palatial rehearsal rooms, 150 an hour, and we're rehearsing, our stuff, We Knew You Looking At, and Don't Start Trouble, and Gina Have Got a Cortina, and all that sort of stuff, all those amazing rock classics. And we heard this band, there was nothing, his band sounded nothing like anybody else. And even now, you to have the bottle to do that, because the rest of us all wanted to be rock and roll stars. We wanted to be on telly, wanted girls to go, It was, do you know what I mean? They were, to take a flyer on that, because I'm writing, will this be a hit when I'm writing a song? They just wrote songs. I remember the first time I saw them on Granada TV, and I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, because it was like nothing else. And when you look at all those amazing moments in rock and roll, whether it's the Beatles in '63, whether it's Syd Barrett's Pink Floyd in 1967, when those moments in time come, when there's a band that they don't open a door and walk through, they create a door where there was a brick wall, and that's what him and Joy Division, and by the way...
So why didn't you sign us, you bastard?
You knob.
Do you remember the story?
You knob.
Didn't he manage it?
He is the man. Oh, no, he's the guy from Decca that turned the Beatles down. Oh, no, I don't know. They've got nothing about them.
The guys come into my office, it was on Sunday. There was one kebab place. There was no McDonald's, no Burger King open like it is now. There was one kebab place under the Piccadilly Hotel. I don't know if you can remember it, Pete. Mm-hmm. And they said, do you want to come for a kebab, Tony? I thought, yeah, all right, I like the guy. It's a friend. Yeah. So we're walking up. It's true, I remember it, I put it in the book. Hooky says, At the time, Hacienda, there was a place where they built boats. And Hooky come out with the off-the-world, we're going to own that building one day. And I thought, what the bleeding hell is he on? But he did own the building. Fast forward 10, 15 years. So, anyway, we walk up to the kebab place, all friendly, chatting, eating our greasy kebabs. And he said, would you like to manage the band? So it just came about like that. And I thought, well, hold on, I've got distractions. Slaughter the Dogs are in the offering. They're a nice band.
It's not going well for you at the moment,
Give me
Tony.
2 weeks. Like,
You've turned down the Beatles and the Stones so far.
Listen.
Might as well throw the Who in there and Led Zepp.
yeah.
So Tony, did you listen to the bands much?
Yeah, of
in the
course I
rooms?
did.
you
Yeah,
hear
I
them?
did.
So was there any sense after you turned them down that they were developing
course
to
it was.
something a bit more interesting, a bit different?
And I think that is the thing. I mean, we were developing. When we went in there, we were shy. It has to be said. We
Then
were
there was
doing funk songs that were as
There was
derivative.
the famous 6 months when you just rehearsed and
I
stopped
mean,
gigging.
you know, the interesting thing about being in his building was that it was quite interesting because the place actually went in stature level,
Yeah.
right? Slaughter and the Dogs, who were big at the time because of the Sex Pistols and because of the rest of it, were at the top. The Buzzcocks were opposite. And then you'd come down and it'd all be like, you know, by the time it got to us, we were in the fucking basement underneath the canal with the water dripping through on the wall. But what I loved about it was that, I mean, we're a bit dodgy, right, because we're from Salford. So he'd say, you can store your gear here all week for an extra 50p.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to cart your gear around, which was fucking great. You could just leave it in some kind of lock-up stupid room or whatever. And Michael, who was the caretaker with the Alsatian, lovely geezer, we always used to bung him 2 cans of beer whenever we came back from a gig. Lovely guy. He'd say to us, well, we'd say to him, go, have you got the key to so-and-so's room? And because we'd be doing a gig in Huddersfield or Halifax or whatever. And you go, oh, isn't that the drones room? And I go, yeah, I've just put my guitar in there, you know. And he'd open it up and we'd take their fucking PA and go and do a gig in Halifax and then bung him 2 cans of beer and put it all back at the end of the fucking night. So, I mean, the place was fucking rife with everybody pilfering. I mean, you couldn't do a gig if Slaughter and the Dogs were in, because all your fucking gear had be gone. Yeah. They were in the opposite room to Buzzcocks, and they fucking stole all Buzzcocks' gear one night, and they'd only gone for a fucking drink to the pub, but came back, it had gone.
That is a true story, by the way. That is
I mean, it was like, you know, School of Rock.
Yeah.
It was like School of Cocks. They were fucking, we were all cocks, basically. We were idiots.
So when did you graduate to the big room, the Lovell Terrace apart room? Now, I'm guessing that's the
the reason we got in the big room was because there was nobody in during the day. That was why we got the big room.
Oh, so you didn't often use it? There's pictures of you in that room as well, though, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I mean, you'd book it, and he'd be booking A, B, C, D, or E, F, and it depended who booked it first and who got it. Because to be honest with you, the big rooms were about fucking 20 degrees less than the small rooms. I mean, in the small rooms, you couldn't move for the collection of piss in bottles that was all round the fucking walls, right? And you'd be fighting to sit on the little electric heater that you'd plug in. Now, this is a very sad story, actually, because Ian Curtis always used to sit on the electric heater. And everybody would say to him, you shouldn't fucking sit on that, you're going to get piles. And he'd say, it's so fucking cold, it's fucking freezing, it's all right for you, you're playing, at least you can get warm. And you know what happened?
Good, tell me.
You got piles, you bastard. You gave Ian Curtis piles.
I've got to say, John, by the way, though, everybody that didn't have a record deal wanted to be on TJM Records because it was Manchester.
Yeah.
So it was a way of getting a record deal without having to go to London.
It was exciting. It was exciting.
It was, because we even the Jets, we went to London. We went to London to see the publisher, to get a deal, and everything we ever did in the Jets was done in London. So train up there, train back, or drive up there, drive back. With TJM, it was here, it was in Manchester. And we look now at rock and roll in Manchester and we think, we take it for granted. Started with the Hollies in '63, still Now there are bands like the Lathams and Slow Readers Club and all these bands now still playing rock and roll. We forget that when we were doing this, nothing happened in town. Nothing. The bands were there, the venues were there, the industry wasn't there, and fair dues to Tony with TJM. If you couldn't get a deal in London, he was the only place, the only game in town.
I mean, what was it like running a label at that point in time? Because like I said, it's a very London-centric music scene. You're very much on the outside.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's sort of weird label, isn't it? Because it never ended up being sort of hallowed like Factory or sort of cool like New Hormones. It's sort of formed between the cracks, isn't it?
People said, well, I never went out to kind of create that type of art for art's sake. Fair play to Tony Wilson. He was a master of developing that. And I looked on TJM as an enabler, or kind of a fun label. I mean, to me, I saw something in acts like Mick Hucknall. I remember Johnny Marr coming in, a young lad, and he went in the room. Hucky's band went in, and very quiet lad. He was there, and I used to see him coming in at 8:30 at night when I was leaving the building. I said, "Where are you going, Johnny?" "Oh, I'm just going to pick up my guitar." Did it about 3-4 times, saw him. Met up with you. Apparently got the quote from you. He slept on the floor of TJM when he got thrown out of his flat because he couldn't pay his rent. Now, to me, that shows hardness of a definite. He's had the hard times in life, but he had the dedication to kind of come through with it. Similar to Hooky, Hooky we were talking earlier on, and Mike, Salford lads, they came from a very poor background. I'm talking in a respectful way to some of the things Peter said, what his mum had to do, and it's things like that ingrains a bit of quality in the person. You can either go the wrong way or the right way.
I mean, what bands did you put out on TJM?
We had... the first band was V2, which was a great, great single. I mean, a lot of the other acts laughed at me. Listen, it's the only record. It's
I like it.
1,000. Yeah. A lot of people like it. These arty people don't like it. The second release was an absolutely brilliant thing, The Distractions. Absolutely fantastic. Fantastic band. They were like the Buzzcocks, and hand on my heart, I messed up big time with them because I was in the throes of kind of in a bit of a playboy lifestyle, not coming back in, not spending the time with them. If I had somebody looking back, if I had somebody to delegate and I had just had time with them, I could have made them bigger than the Buzzcocks. Mike's in here tonight, fantastic guy, and The Distractions, amazing band. And I messed up and I put it on quotes loads of time. The third release was Slaughter and the Dogs. They came from Decca. The Cheeky Bees were still signed to Decca when they came to me. They didn't tell me.
Yeah.
So put them in the studio, and then it slipped out. We were still under... I already paid the money. So the record come out. It did sell very well, recouped my money. And but that was the times there. I really tried to get major acts to kind of give it a bit of credibility. But looking back, you can only do so much. I had too much on my plate with the Rehearsal studios, the record company. We went on tour, the TJM tour. It's something like out of Spinal Tap. Just one particular gig. We did a gig in Derby. And the promoter ran off with the money. And there was some Indian guys.
Was it Alan Wise?
It was an old cinema. The true story, it's in the book. It's an old cinema. And the Indian guys were really nice. He said, "Come upstairs, guys." He said, "I'm sorry they've run off your money. We've got a curry." And they put on a porn show for Hucknall, V2. So they're all lapping it up. And Brian Turner told me the story. I'd forgotten it. It's a true story. One of the mums came in down. She come up to me. "How dare you? This type of perversion to my young son." I'm not going to mention the guy in the band, but he was totally embarrassed. And he went on, and the band were laughing. But that was times the thing. I did my best to kind of get promotion for the bands, and history in the making. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, well, the other labels in town, say like with Factory, would they be asking you for advice? Because you're a precursor, aren't you? So
Rabid were really... Now, there's a label that are really underrated. Tosh Ryan used to come in, he went his fly posting, and we used to have long chats when he took the poster off me to put around town, talking about his label. And we had kind of a kindred spirit because we were outsiders. Factory was kind of coming into kind of, prominence, and he never got it. Tony was a great, great guy, but I never kind of could strike a conversation with him. He was just kind of that aloofness. Maybe I was wrong, but, he's a great guy, God rest his soul, and he's done a massive amount for Manchester. But getting back to Hooky and Sweeney and the bands, no.
I mean, you know what? If someone did a TV show about it now, it'd be fucking unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember we were in the room above V2. I don't know how that had happened.
oh, you're moving up now.
We've moved up.
Yeah.
I don't know how it had happened, but any of V2 in? Yeah, good. No,
Your favourite band?
And we had a toilet in our room. Someone had taken the toilet
This
out
really
of
is the
somewhere
posh room.
and shoved it in our room.
Yeah.
And so we were practicing and we could hear them downstairs. We thought, fucking twats. So I know, what we'll show them. And we went and got a length of rope and tied it to the toilet, right? Lowered it out the window and then started swinging it until it went fucking straight into their rehearsal room. And then hid like it wasn't us.
You can take the man out of Salford.
How fucking mad is that?
But it shows there was a lot of humour, there was a lot of bickering. Hucknall despised bands like Joy Division, despised bands like Slaughter the Dog, any band that was making it.
I think it's fair to say we all fucking despised each other.
Yeah. There was a lot of
bitchiness. Competition, wasn't it? You were looking at... They were all Manchester bands, all in one place, which never fucking happens unless you're doing some kind of stupid festival, right? So the thing is that you were looking at all your competition. They stole a gig off you last week. They fucking fast breeder them bastards. Oh my God, you know what I mean? And it was like, that was the weird thing. They were all your competition in one place, and you just couldn't be nice.
And the better they got, the worse it was.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And every time someone managed to achieve something. I mean, I remember going into Dougie James, who was the booker for Rafters, right? Was like God. He really was Dougie, God rest his soul. Lovely man. Alan Wise's partner, but you can't hold that against him. Lovely man as well. Real historic people. This business is really sad that they don't have these people, right? And I remember going, and we hadn't had a gig for ages, practicing away at TJ's. We were actually getting quite good, getting a great set together. It was starting to really come together. Even we could tell, us dumbos could tell that we had something going. And Ian phoned me up. We used to take turns managing the band. And it was my turn. And Ian phoned me up and he went, okay. He said, the Banshees are playing at Rafters. Get down, because I worked in town at Manchester Town Hall. He said, get down there to Rafters and ask Dougie if we can support them. So I said, right, fucking hell. He had a tannoy on the door, And you go down and you'd go, hi, it's Peter Hook from Joy Division. Nothing. Hello, is this working? Hello? And I think I went in pretending I was from the rates or something. Joe from the rates department, I'm new to respect the building. And he went, oh, all right, okay, and he let us in. And I went in. And I said, hi, Dougie, sorry about that. He said, we're just after a gig with Joy Division. No, I didn't say we're Joy Division. I said, we're just after a gig. We're after a support for Susie and the Banshees. And he went, oh, okay, let me see what I've got. And he got his book out. Give the punchline away there. Got his book out and he went, He said, you can't have that. I've already given it to Joy Division. And I went, we are Joy Division. He went, get out, you twat, get out. And fucking threw me out. Right? And that's how you had to fight for every single gig as you were coming up. And that's what bred the wonderful competitive spirit, and we will call it, to be nice.
What Hooky said then as well, everything was in little niches. So, for instance, for the Jets, we did load of national TV, we were on Radio 1. But I remember when the Rock Against Racism concert in '78 took place, and I got in touch and said, look, can we do it? And they said, no, you're not cool enough. So, no, but we believe in it. Don't matter, mate, you're not cool enough. And we would be doing stuff, but Hooky and the band would be on the front of NME, whereas we only ever got interviewed in the whole of the Jets twice, once by Sounds, once by NME, ever. And you would look at bands and they would say, oh, it's all right for you, you're on flipping Get It Together, and you were on Lift Off the other week, you're on telly. One of your songs is in the top 100. And you say, yeah, but you're getting reviewed in that competition and all those little league tables and the constant, you would demand of yourself that you got something that they had, not realising that another man might look at you and say, they were on Granada TV the other week. It's all right for you, but I loved it. Those different levels of success and achievement, I think, made the whole thing magic. I mean, a lot of the bands we're talking about now, Hooky's been probably as successful as anybody, but a lot of those other bands, V2, Slaughter and the Dogs, the Drones, Ed
Successful
Bangor,
in their own right.
yeah,
They really were.
all had their own moments when you just did something that was absolutely
And this is all
brilliant.
played out in a ramshackle warehouse.
Oh, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
centre of
And
Manchester,
do you know
yeah.
what is weird? When I drove past it tonight, actually, when we got our flight cases in TJ Davidson's, right, we actually bought some flight cases. We thought we were the fucking dogs. Flight cases. You know, we'd watched Buzzcocks with their flight cases. We'd watched Slaughter and the Dogs with theirs. And we were like, oh, fuck. Oh, my God. And we got our flight cases. And we decided to take them for a spin down the stairs. And we persuaded Ian, who was allergic to foam. Right, there's a little known fact. And he said, I'll go in it, but I've got to put Barney's crash helmet on, because Barney had a motorbike. So Barney got in it with a crash helmet on and Barney's motorbike gloves, so he didn't have to touch the foam. Yeah. And then we threw him down the stairs and then took him for a spin in the fucking car park. Now, the car park is still there.
Yeah,
it's about the
it
only
is,
piece of old Manchester that's fucking left is that car park. And every time I drive past it, I always have this big thing of where we were spinning Ian round. It's test driving the flight case. And I remember Twinny said to me, to put it in the canal.
Do you remember doing that? I remember getting our first PA and we stenciled the band's name on the side. So if you're at a gig, it says Salford Jets, right? And I remember getting a van for the equipment with roadies, and we went to the gig in a car. That we've made it. This is the ultimate. Do you know what I mean? We've made it.
And you'd be bragging your bollocks off when you got back to his
Oh,
place.
have you seen our van? Oh, yes, it's ours.
So,
We
but
own
when
it.
you went to do a gig and you pick the PA up and it has Salford Jets
Someone
written on the
else's
side.
PA, put someone else's PA back. The drones usually. Sorry, lads, if any of them are in. But yeah, I mean, you didn't. I mean, it was fucking funny actually watching New Order play in Halifax last week. Well, I didn't watch him. That is fucking funny. But
Yeah.
tragic. Yeah. The last time we played in Halifax was at the Good Mood Club, and we borrowed the drone's PA. Took it all the way there, probably blew it up, fucking had to disguise it all the way back, you know, putting it back in pieces or whatever. And we had one person that came to see us. One person. And years and years and years later, about 30 years later, this guy came up to me and he said, do you remember the Good Mood Club in Halifax? And he said, I was that one person. And I said, prove it.
We did Halifax.
There you go, Good Mood.
Right.
Not the same guy
No,
went to the gig.
I promise you. And we were doing okay. We got to this club in Halifax, and there were another two bands on and us, the other two bands and the odd roadie and blah, 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 and the staff outnumbered the punters. So we set up and we went out and had an absolute battle royal. We had a fight.
What a great
You
night
had
out.
it
Great
easy.
times.
He had it easy. He was just sat there with his feet up on the desk, waiting for us to come back.
So Hooky, the room's initially small, claustrophobic room. I've interviewed loads of times, but you talk about the sound, the Joy Division, and how those rooms you can't hear anybody's doing at all. Is this actually where the sound of the band comes from? Where Ian says, can you play high up on the neck so I can hear what you're playing?
oh God, this sounds really weird, but I don't know what the other bands were like, right? But you couldn't hear a fucking thing. The only thing you could generally hear was you, and you were hoping that the band made an acceptable sound. The first time I heard Ian Curtis sing properly was when we went in Strawberry Studios.
Yeah.
That was the first time I was like, fucking hell. I thought, he's fucking good, isn't he? I was like, wow, I'd never heard him before. Because it was just a fucking racket. But the thing, it's true, but the thing is that you could tell from his face that he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it meant every single fucking word. And it was the same with Barney and Steve. You could tell we all meant it. And so it didn't actually matter what you sounded like because the sound was terrible.
But I was just interested in that thing that, you always tell me about this, about playing the classic hooky high up on the neck style.
Because I couldn't hear myself, and the only way I could hear myself through that shit bass speaker that Sir had
Not to do with me, mate.
was by playing high. And whenever I played high, Ian loved it and would always say to me, "Okay, play high, play high, play high." And that was it. I go, fuck it, I'm not arguing with him. And
So,
it was as simple as that.
go back to Tony, the fact you had these kind of pretty terrible rooms with not very good sound in them created a classic game-changing sound that changed the story of rock music.
Sarcastic.
So it was you.
You sarcastic son. To my mind, when I bought the building, I thought, right, I'll smelt it up. I got a job line of horrible chocolate brown paint, gloss. Plastered the walls with it, got a guy to do it, plastered the walls, did it myself with it. Looked at it, thought it looks bloody horrible. But to my mind, when these guys come in, this darkness, this kind of ambience, to my mind, created the Joy Division sound.
But it didn't work for Mike, though, did
If it was painted white, they'd be doing a different song.
Sparrow and Ball
Tie
now.
a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree. But no, seriously, I think, on a serious note...
Just hang on a minute. What colour did you paint Slaughter in the dog's room?
Brown. No, listen, I think it had a part of it, and...
No, do you know what? All joking aside, it was very important for all of us in that scene. Again, it also harks, as you said, to the Hacienda, that you had somewhere to go.
Yeah.
There were places to go, right? As I said, the Big Alex in Moss Side and all these places. And there were pubs. We practiced in the Swan in Salford, which was a story in itself. So, the thing was, it was really important and it was really needed. And he did it, and I'm fucking glad you didn't get the house in Wimslow, mate.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we'd have been fucked, and we probably wouldn't be the band that we were if we hadn't have been able to do that. Because literally, I can remember being in that room, the one that V2 were in when we swung the toilet in. And I remember writing Love Will Tear Us Apart in that room, and we wrote it on a Wednesday, and we finished it off. Ian, at the end of the practice on the Wednesday night, Ian had a plastic bag that used to have all his lyrics in, and me and Steve got the drums and the bass, and he said, "I'm going to do some words to that. I'll do some words to that, and I'll bring them in on Sunday." And he came in on Sunday, and he did Love Will Tear Us Apart. And that was the record, and that was less than 3 hours it took to write, and cost £3.
Yeah. And you didn't even record it, did you?
No, we didn't
cassette
record it.
You
No.
had to remember it.
We didn't have a cassette recorder. We had no money. So we weren't able... I mean, the wonderful thing about those bands, and I'm sure all of us were the same, was that the only time the music appeared was when all the band played together. Because none of us had any recording. So that you had to get
try
the four
and remember
people together.
stuff. You're right, no cassette recorder. And you couldn't remember, and I couldn't write music, so I had to keep singing it till I got to the recording studios. Because you did.
Just think about all the ones you forgot.
Oh, there's loads, don't. Heartbreaking. But just back to you, mate. You see where we are now in Poshington's here, and outside, if you drive the wrong way up that road, you get fined like £400. And there's flipping bus gates and this, and in Manchester now... When we were doing this, when TJM was going, you could drive into Manchester in a car, drive to Market Street, stop outside Woolworths, go in, shop, get in your car and go home. And you could go to his place, all those back streets there now that are worth
Park.
billions. It was slumland. It was part of forgotten mansion. You could drive there in your car, park on the pavement, go into his rehearsal room, and it was informal. And that was a magic in a way. The fact, and just as Ucky was saying, we were all in there, all these guys, and it was mostly blokes trying to write rock and roll
Manicured
songs.
Noise were the only 2 females in Manicured Noise. I think they were the only.
Yeah.
Anyone correct me? The only 2
Well, into
females.
this environment, Manchester United turned up with Lou Carey's on the screen
Yeah,
before.
Paul Lou was due to come tonight.
I mean, they're footballers these days, very posh lifestyles. But even then, they were a cut above
Yeah,
musicians.
they were a cut above the rest, but there wasn't the
What do they
money
make?
in
What do
there.
they make of the space when they turned up? You didn't give them the room that Hooky was
This is
in,
what
did you?
happened. I plastered. One of the footballers must have seen the posters around Manchester TJM Rehearsal Studio, thinking it's some exclusive upmarket venue like this, top of the rehearsal studio. So get the cheque for 50 quid for Man United. There was no agents those days. Somebody from Man United, oh yeah, cheque for 50 quid. I did have trepidation. I thought, what the fuck, when they come down to see the place. On the day, I don't think Cookie was there, his band was there, but there was a lot of bands, and there was a winding staircase, and I see Lou McCarry bringing Gordon McQueen, Gordon Strachan, I thought, there they are, the Greenough brothers. They come up to the ground floor, look around. Hiya. So, hi Lou, how are you? Lovely lad, Lou. He said, I would come to rehearse. So I said, yeah, this is the room. It was the same room as Joy Division's, directly underneath. Sad Cafe had it, but they were on tour, so I used it. Opened the door, they all look inside. There was a tense silence for about, seemed like a minute. Nobody said anything. And I remember Sammy McElroy said, there's nowhere to sit. And I came out with something daft. I said, well, you're not having a team photo. Anyway, it broke the silence, started laughing. And there was the city, I can't remember what bands were hanging over the balancers going, all abusive to the red. And I remember Hucknall pushing forward to Sammy McElroy. He remembers it to this day when I met up with him, trying to get an autograph, and I got hold of him. I said, get back to rehearsal room. But listen, he said, keep the cheque, and they went back to Old Trafford. But we came firm friends with Lou, and I've got to say, the guy is a fantastic guy, what he does for a charity. And on a serious note, we've already given, the money I've given it was from people who bought the posters, which are on sale tonight. Basically, it's not a big deal. The money was given in good faith. And I've seen how how Lou McCarry uses it. It's there till 11 o'clock at night. And to my mind, he's a modern day saint. So the tickets we've raised, a lot of people, about 60, 70 people have cancelled. But the money's already gone to McCarry's Foundation. And I'd like to thank Mouse Murray, who sponsored the event, a great guy. He does a lot for Slaughtering the Dogs, and a really, really good guy. He sponsored the event tonight. That money's gone to him. And the proceeds from the book are going to Lou. And that was it.
Which?
So just one thing. So these posters outside, the books outside, these posters, Hooky will sign that one. You didn't know that.
I'm going home, mate.
Actually, the guy,
joking.
I hadn't seen Hooky for
I
4
got a
years.
tram waiting for me.
He was magnanimous in
Have you
signing
got
this.
have you got permission to use that picture?
Sort of. Made up specially. It's for a
That's
charity.
fucking
Yeah.
punk, innit?
Yeah, but no, can I just say
sort of
one
won't
thing?
stand up in court, will it? No.
Yeah, no, I've had plenty of
But-
that. I've had that with
But you're,
Hucknall,
you're
actually.
getting a little ahead of yourself because we need some questions from the audience.
Yeah, we have a...
Yeah.
Does anybody want to obviously ask any questions?
Oh no, they don't look like the type.
Yeah.
Those are,
They know it all. This fucking
I love,
lot,
I
can
love
tell.
you guys, but I'm gonna get a tram in 5
has
minutes.
anybody got a really
Fucking hell.
awkward question for Hooky?
Me,
Yeah.
not mine. No, I haven't. No. It was a very sad moment when he got towed away. And then, funnily enough, it was him that inspired me to get that, Jack, because he had one downstairs in the fucking thing. Because bit of a moocher,
that's
and he
right,
had
yeah.
loads of cars downstairs. I mean, I was going to ask you, where did you get all them fucking cars from?
Buying and selling, wheeling,
He used to say to me, okay, come and sit in my Rolls Royce. And I couldn't resist it because I'd never been in this place. In fact, it's the first and only time I've ever been in a Rolls Royce was with him. And I remember going in and sitting in it, and he's going, it's beautiful, isn't it? And I was like, fuck it, what's going to happen here?
Just take your pants off.
And he was using it, it had little chrome, I remember
That's
that,
right,
the
yeah.
chrome little joystick things, and he put it fucking flat out like that.
Is that what
Then
you
he tried
call
to
it? A
kiss me, the
joystick?
bastard. But you did always have wonderful cars,
Yeah, I
didn't you?
did.
But I mean, how did fucking your cars? Because there was a story that I heard that when you used to go, you had a girlfriend down south, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Fucking amazing memory, this, you know.
Yeah, well done, yeah. The first wife,
And
yeah.
he said he used to go down and see her every weekend.
That's right, to Cornwall, yeah.
And he'd be bombing it down the motorway as fast as these fucking cars could go. And the police used to wait for
How do you know that story?
You told me, you twat.
How
Can
do
I
you
just-
know?
The police used to wait for him, and they go,
What a
and then
memory
he'd radio
this
head,
guy's
and they
got.
fucking pull him up. And he used to get done for speeding every week.
This is a true
He'd get the practice
story.
place, he went, fucking happened again, fucking done for speed.
Had a load
So
of
that's where the
spree.
£1.50s are all going to pay
Yeah,
the speed
no,
fine.
just to enhance the story. Peter's got a great memory. I got caught genuinely 7 times. Well, I lost my licence. Yeah, no, I'll tell you. In Stockport, yeah. Sorry, what did you say?
You didn't have a licence, mate.
No, I
Okay,
did.
now.
I'll tell you the full story. I got stopped 7 times, truthfully, going down from county. Because the first county in Congleton, I got stopped. I was a bit flash, and the guy come out, he started this and that. I said, oh, look, I wasn't doing that much. And I wasn't swearing, but I was a bit cocky. What he did, the spiteful beat, he kind of motored to the next county. He stopped me then, and then, and then. When I got to the roundabout at Plymouth, it was 7 times. That came back to bite me because I did get banned from driving. And this is a true story. I wouldn't drive. But there was the break-in at the, Michael rang me. He said, oh, some guys are trying to break in. I said, well, set the Alsatian on them. And
Oh, I never thought of that.
yeah, Woody the Alsatian.
What was he
So
called?
he said, you better come down. So I took my wife's car, drive down through Cheetham Hill. There was no recognition then, and you had to go to the police, you put your documentation in. But that was the time I got stopped, and it kind of built up with me, and I got sent to prison for 3 weeks. And my first wife, I deserved it, by the way, so I look on it my first wife, his father was a Chisham Chief Constable. He was in the running for becoming Chief Constable of Manchester, but there was a horrible guy called Anderton got it, very homophobic against gays, etc. So they retired to Cornwall, he didn't get it. He came, I said, can you come to when I got my appeal, a very good barrister, got in 2 weeks, went to the court, and my mum was the matron in the hospital. The two of them, he pointed, he said, well, he's never been in trouble before. His mum's the matron in the hospital. Richard Bird, retired chief superintendent. So he did the job, got released straight away. So, yeah.
And I used to say to him, they catch me every fucking weekend. Every fucking weekend. And I'd say, well, why don't you go on a Wednesday?
Did it never occur to you to drive sort of within the speed limit?
Yeah,
You
well,
knob.
the folly of youth. But
There's nobody on the motorway then, was there?
no.
It was fucking straight
you've been
down.
picked up 7 times.
Just coppers at everything waiting for
but
him.
bit of
All the
proof.
rest of us never got done at all.
Well, yeah, but we didn't get done 7 times.
So, any more questions?
Not about cars.
Yeah, that was a tangent.
What about a Cortina, mate? I mean, Steve Brotherdale was an acquired taste, I thought. And he was a particularly nasty little fellow. And we kicked him out of the band. And then about 10 years, 15 years later, I took my kids into McDonald's on Oxford Road. And I went up to the counter and I goes, I'll have two Max, whatever, fries, 2 strawberry milkshakes. And he went, hiya, Rookie, it's me, Steve Brotherdale. I thought, fucking hell. Fucking twat ended in Burger King. I went straight to Burger King.
He got thrown out of V2 as well.
I'm not surprised.
So there's a history there,
Swat.
definitely.
He went from room to room, basically.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. Well,
yeah.
he actually left. Well, he didn't left. I kicked him out of my car in fucking Piccadilly and threw all his drum kit on the floor and just said, fuck off. That was how we got rid of him. He went and joined the Panic.
That's right.
that
Yeah.
Robb
We were here
Gretton
tonight,
managed.
actually. Yeah.
Robb Gretton managed the Panic. So he'd actually got a better job and got a record out. So we were like, yeah, fucking bastard. This was all it was about, was the disappointments of being in a group, the seething injustice of everybody else getting anything in the world. It's never changed, has it?
No, I was going to say that. Have you got over it yet at all? Or?
What, the Panic? Yeah,
No,
I've got over
was
that,
it the seething injustice?
No, and there's a lot of seething injustice still left about.
Yeah.
I mean, I must admit, it's not as painful as it used to be. But yeah, I mean, to me, the competition about being in a group and is part of the adrenaline. And it's fucking hard. It is really difficult, especially in, when people say to you, have you got any tips for success? How can I make it? And, there's only one way to make it, and that's to never, ever fucking give up. Because once you give up, boof, you're done. So you've just got to keep doing, like a zombie in The Walking Dead, shoot his leg off. He's still crawling up the road. Shoot his fucking knee, then his thigh, then his waist. He's still fucking coming for you. That's what I'm like, that fucking zombie. I mean, it's as Mike was saying, the thing about it was that you did the gigs ridiculously. You would do literally anything, right? I mean, we supported the Buzzcocks, and Pauline Black, is it? From Penetration. No, Pauline Murray from Penetration, sorry. She asked us, do you want to play with us in Newcastle on Friday? Unadvertised. And we said, yeah. So we borrowed my mate's 3.5 tonner, drove up to Newcastle to play first on our second gig, that was, first time we ever did it. And that was the breeding ground, it has to be said, to come back to what you did, right? The thing is that was where all that tenacity and all that belief that we had in the music and in ourselves, because it takes a lot of, being in a group is all about self-belief. You have to believe that you are the best thing ever. And that's what pisses me off about fucking Simon Cowell sitting there telling everybody how fucking good they are. When what would he say to Sean Ryder? What would he say to fucking Ian Curtis? What would fucking Simon Cowell have said to him? Fuck off. You know what I mean? And that's what it's about. You've just got to tell everybody to fuck off. and never give up. And then you'll be happy.
Bucky's right. You want that success. I've got to say, though, the poorer your background, the hungrier you are. Because when there's now out there and, education hasn't been a facility that's been afforded to you, you just think, I just want to be successful. And it's visceral almost.
I mean, you see, the thing is that these are very, very different times in that we were after selling records, right? One record that you sold, an LP, call it 10 quid, that would earn the record company 5 or 6 quid per record. And so it was a huge earning machine that you were trying to get into. And of course now that has just gone.
Yeah.
Absolutely gone. These bands now, quite rightly actually, probably have to work. We all had to work. We all worked. I mean, when we went to do the Buzzcocks tour, we went professional. Simply because we couldn't fucking get back from Glasgow in time to work. Right? You couldn't do it. You would have been dead. I mean, if I had £1 for every time I fell asleep outside work, there was a zebra crossing just outside the docks, and I'd pull up in the van, and it'd just be like, I'd driven back from London or fucking wherever, Halifax. And it's getting a lot of stick, Halifax, tonight, isn't it? And I'd be there. And my fucking workmates would take great delight in banging on the window. Fucking hell, scaring me to death. So the thing is, when we came to do the Buzzcocks tour, we realised there were so many dates we couldn't do it. And that's when we went professional, if you call getting 11 quid a week.
I was going to say, yeah,
professional
with no money.
I used to phone in sick.
And it's, well, yeah, I mean, it's like we were talking about all the bands were on the dole, because I love that story of Slaughtering the Dogs when lead singer went to sign on.
Yeah,
And he's
Matt
queuing
Rossi.
up to get in, and he gets to the front, and the fucking guy holds up an ME with him on it. Oh, fucking hell, you know, I mean, I went on the dole for 2 weeks, and my mum phoned me up and said, your brother's told me you're on the dole. And I went, well, yeah, you know, I'm not earning much with the band. She said, if you go to that dole office again, I will phone the police and tell them you're in a group. Fucking hell, ma'am. That's my mother for you. But probably that explains a lot about me, actually. But, you know, she was so set against you fiddling the state, yeah. But, I mean, it was, you worked to do the band, and the band was for keeps once, if you'd have pulled it off. And he was. I mean, TJ Davidson's was the stuff of legend. It really was a legendary place. And I am so glad that we were part of it, and I'm sure a lot of the other bands are, because when you sat there talking to people about it, about him, and he was like you'd come from another planet, mate. Right? We're all looking at him going,
He had a proper car.
Yeah, the fucking Lotus.
A real
How the
one.
fuck does he do that? Where's he getting his money from? This was before drug
From you.
dealers. Before drug dealers, wasn't it? You know what I mean? We used to be like that, going, fucking hell. He comes swanning in. His leathers on and like that, like Malcolm McLaren, you know. We were like, fucking hell, who is this twat? Unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, it was such fantastic times, and to walk about a building and bump into Slaughtering the Dogs, whether you liked them or not, you know, you admired people's work and you admired the talent, and to bump into Mick Hucknall, God help us, and to bump into Pete Shelley and see everybody there, it was absolutely wild. And there was that little shitty pub down the bottom of the road.
That's right, the Gaethorne, yeah.
That we all would go in if we had any money, because money was in really, really short supply. With all of us, funnily enough.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, yeah, it was weird. It was a wonderful thing to have done at that point. And, you know, again, as I said, right next to the Hacienda, how fucking weird is that?
Yeah, yeah.
There was nowhere for us
History
lot to
repeating
meet.
itself.
There was nowhere for us lot to meet, and he opened it. He opened the only place that we could all go and meet, which was fantastic. And of course, then Tony Wilson did it for everybody in Manchester with the Hacienda. And it's quite odd that they're all, you know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Tony.
it just brought everything out to the end of town. But nice speech, Rocky. I think that's a very nice point to actually end this. Have you got anything else to say, Tony? Like, you're going to go and sign some books now, aren't you? I think?
Yeah.
Is that the plan?
I'm going to get a tram.
And I'm going home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to thank all these three guys that have taken the time. They've all got busy lives. Hooky is in the middle of a massive tour. I haven't seen the guy for 40 years. I thought, what's he going to be like? All this preconceived. Oh, don't say this to him.
I'm going to show you my car now.
Yeah. No, but seriously,
tram.
can I just say, meeting Mike, the two...
Mine.
Seriously.
Mike's tram on the front.
It's because you work for the BBC, mate.
When Hooky came on board, and then Mike later on, and then John, there was no qualms. Oh, well, I'm a bit busy, or, you know. I did approach somebody else from the band, and there was a different kind of connotation, but I'm not here to talk
So we second choice.
Third.
No, it
It's
wasn't.
fucking Mick Hucknall, wasn't it?
No. Just seriously.
Yeah, let's do one.
These guys, we had a great chat backstage, and he opened up about his early life. And you just get I knew a lot about him, but, you know, great. So thank you very much, all three of you.
Thank
for
you,
coming.
mate.
Thanks for
Good night,
coming.
God bless.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I'll be backstage if you want to sign anything. There's a few posters here that if anybody wants to buy them, it's all going to charity. There's not mad money. You just want to collect as much for Lou Macari. So anyway, thank you very much for everybody, and see you guys soon.